Today we are going to do all states that we have learned so far. So,
Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, New York, Pennsylvania, New York, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts.
all right, I started out in order, but then I thought, you know what, I'm going to start mixing it up, see if they still know them. Somebody started to say it in the order that we do them in. All right, now let's move on to the Southwest region.
West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida.
All right, not bad. And now the newest one that we've learned so far, the one that was just on your quiz and test.
North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Iowa, Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska.
Did I already do both of these?
Yes.
All right, good, very good. And if you are just sort of mumbling along with everybody else and don't really know them, I'd advise you to get busy learning them because they will come back again. By the end of the year, you need to know the whole entire United States. And the whole entire United States will be on a test. So that's why we'll keep going back. And I know there are some out there that do not know the Midwest region yet. All right, escape. Nope, we read all that, didn't we? Yes, we're on page 235. 235, helping others. Other groups of people arrived by way of the Underground Railroad. One group told Harriet Tubman that her sister, along with her children, were being sold to another man who lived far away. She knew what she needed to do. She would go back to Maryland, get her sister and children, and bring them to Pennsylvania. The trip was dangerous. If Harriet Tubman was caught, she would be a slave again. But she was very careful. She asked God to help her on her journey, and he did. She brought her sister and her children to freedom. Her faith in God gave her the courage to make the trip many more times. She was even able to take her parents on the Underground Railroad. Because they were old and feeble, Mrs. Tubman made a cart Mrs. Tubman made a cart that they could ride on during the long trip. Turn the page. Because some slave owners offered rewards for their runaway slaves, Harriet Tubman often dressed as an old man or a woman to hide who she was. Once, at a train station, two men thought they recognized her. She grabbed a book and pretended to read it. Since a slave would not have been able to read, the men went on. Mrs. Tubman's quick thinking saved her from being caught. Since so many slaves were finding their freedom, a new law was passed that said anyone who saw a runaway slave would have to turn them in or go to jail. Now, to be truly free, a slave would have to go all the way to Canada. Still, Mrs. Tubman was determined to help as many people as she could. Harriet Tubman helped many people find their freedom from slavery. She once said, and you may read it with me, "I was the conductor of the Underground Railroad for 8 years, and I can say what most conductors can't say. I never ran my train off the track, and I never lost a passenger." All right, so again, the Underground Railroad is not a real train and things, a real railroad station. It is, but she's saying that she helped them escape, and they were never ever caught. That's what she means by running off the track. She never lost one of the people that she was helping escape to freedom. She never lost anybody. Nobody ever caught them. All right, Civil War. Soon the North and the South were at war. When Mrs. Tubman was asked to help the Northern Army, she was happy to serve because the North was against slavery. She helped take care of wounded soldiers, and she gathered herbs and plants to make medicines just as her mother had taught her. Harriet Tubman's most exciting job in the war was being a scout and a spy. She could sneak past the enemy and get information from slaves who wanted to help the North. No one thought of a small woman as a spy. Mrs. Tubman became the commander of intelligence operations for the Northern Army. She told other spies and scouts how to get past the enemy and gather important information. Freedom for all. In 1863, I'm looking around and seeing some of you not reading along with me. You're not supposed to be reading out loud, but you should be looking at what I'm reading. Where did you see the red words that say freedom for all near the top of the page? And that's where you should be looking. So stop daydreaming and look at what I'm reading and follow along as I read. If you need to use your finger to follow along, then use your finger so that you're staying focused. Freedom for all. In 1863, President Abraham Lincoln signed a very important document called the Emancipation Proclamation. It said that all slaves in the southern states should be freed. When the war ended, the North had won. Finally, in 1865, Congress made slavery in the United States illegal. Oh, there's our good spelling word from last list.
Oh, yeah.
Or against the law. Illegal means against the law. Harriet Tubman's dream of seeing slavery end had come true. More work to do. Life after the war was still hard for many people who had been slaves. Jobs were hard to find. Harriet Tubman opened her home to former slaves. She spent her money to purchase what they needed and help them find jobs and places to live. One day, a lady named Sarah Bradford came to see Harriet Tubman. "Tell me your story," she said. "I will write it down for you in a book. You could sell the book and use the money to help people." Mrs. Bradford wrote 2 books about Mrs. Tubman. One book was Harriet Tubman, the Moses of Her People. Mrs. Tubman used the money to continue helping anyone she could. Harriet Tubman lived until she was about 93 years old. Remember, they say about because they're not sure what year she was born. So they were guessing what year she was born. And that's a good educated guess, by the way. But then that means they don't know for sure how old she was. But they think she was about 93. That's pretty old, isn't it?
Yes.
God used her as he used Moses to lead many people out of slavery. Before you turn the page, let's look at that picture. It says Harriet Tubman is the one on the far left. And that's her with some of her friends in that picture. But that is a real photograph, not just an artist's drawing. That was taken with a very old-fashioned camera from long ago. Turn the page. Today, in Auburn, New York, where she lived, a plaque on the courthouse honors her extraordinary life, courage, and determination. All right, these are true or false? Harriet Tubman was born into slavery.
True.
As a slave, Harriet had to do any job her master gave her.
True.
Number 3, Harriet married a slave named John Tubman.
True.
False. He wasn't a slave. He was a free man. He was a freed slave. He had been a slave, but he was already a freed slave. His master had decided that slavery was wrong, and his master had let him go. So she was still a slave, but he was a freed person. Number 4, a Quaker lady helped Harriet Tubman find her way to freedom on the Underground Railroad. True. That is true. That's what we read yesterday. Number 5, slaves traveled to the south by way of the Underground Railroad. False. They traveled to the
North.
The south is where they were having the slavery. The north was against it. Number 6, Harriet Tubman helped many people, including several of her family members, find their freedom on the Underground Railroad.
True.
Started with her sister and her children, and then later her parents. Number 7, during the Civil War, Harriet Tubman was a spy, a scout, and a nurse for the Northern Army.
True.
Number 8, President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation stating that Southern slaves should be freed.
True.
And number 9, after the war, Harriet Tubman opened her own hotel to help former slaves.
True. False.
She opened her home, but it wasn't a hotel. It was just her home. She just opened her home and let them come, and she would give them her own money to buy them what they needed.